Welcome to the Reboot live Q&A. Good to have everybody here, all four of you. Should get some more people in soon. Hope you're all having a good weekend so far. It's tell me where in the world you are watching from and what the temperature is there. Here in Oregon, we're having record heat. Today it's supposed to be 108 Fahrenheit and tomorrow 115. Haven't felt that since I was in Africa, I think. So, interesting times. Gonna go swimming after this. Looks like we got a longer question right here at the beginning. So, I'll go ahead and address that while we're waiting for more people to come in and ask their questions. As you come in and hey, from the UK, what's up? As you come in, just go ahead and ask your questions. Share whatever you like, ask whatever you like. Open space. All questions are welcome. Hey, Noah, this is going to be long, so please stick with me and provide me guidance. I'm dying of worry. So last week I texted my ex, and there's a little chance of getting back together again. Not sure if you meant like there's a little chance, so you're hopeful, or there's little chance. Ever since I'm depressed. We'll call her soon to clarify things up for the final time. I'm showing symptoms of depression from the breakup, and I've started my no PMO journey. Currently, I'm on day 8. Suffering from ED for a long time, was watching weird fetish stuff, but when I was with a girl, Cialis was solving my issues. So my question is, if I get back with her, can I still use Cialis? Because a relationship with no sex is impossible at the beginning. And if all goes well, I'm planning to move in with her after a year. I think 1 year is a good time to heal if I go on like I am now. If she doesn't come back, it's all clear. I will continue with no PMO. And also, do you have any supplement recommendations? Thank you so much. By the way, I'm 32. Also, I think my depression has an effect on my flatline. For 1 week, I'm feeling nothing. So sorry for putting such a long message. It's all right. This is all too long. I can shoot you an email. Okay. So, it sounds like you're going through a tumultuous emotional time right now with your breakup, maybe a little bit of hope of getting back together. Also, just maybe starting your no PMO journey, it sounds like. I don't know if you've been trying to be porn free for a long time and just been unable to, or if you're just starting now. But I'll start with the sexual dysfunction side of things. You're asking about Cialis. Will it be okay if you get back together, if you're going to be using Cialis? Cialis, Viagra, all those different medications, I usually recommend against their use in recovery because it's not necessary. If you need it to perform, then that most likely means that your body just needs more time of rest in order to heal and resensitize and get back to that point where you would be able to perform without the aid of those pharmaceuticals. And I have seen it happen that guys who rely on those too much can actually stall their progress. You've probably heard me, many of you guys in here have probably heard me use this metaphor before, but it's like you sprain your ankle real bad, and instead of giving yourself the rest and the time you need to heal before you start walking and then running again, you just eat some painkillers, go right back out on the trail, go for another run. It can delay the healing process because you're putting too much use on that part of your body before you're healed. That said, I've seen guys go through what you describe. They're in a new relationship. They want to be able to continue having sex, so they're relying on the Cialis or the Viagra. And I've seen some of those guys, at least, be able to continue to see progress through that time as long as they're not using porn, they're not masturbating, just using the Cialis when they need to for sex with their partner. And a lot of them do see progress over time and are able to wean themselves off of that over time. But some of them do not. Some of them actually see that they need more or higher doses of that drug to get the same result. And they seem to be actually stalling or regressing in their progress. So if you choose to take that route, just be mindful of how it's affecting you. And if you're seeing forward progress or if you're seeing a stall after a month or a month and a half, 2 months, and go from there. You said that the relationship is impossible if you're not having sex in the beginning. A relationship with no sex is impossible at the beginning. I will tell you that in general, that's not necessarily true. Plenty of relationships, romantic relationships are possible without sex. Lots of people wait a long time before they have sex. Plenty of people wait until they're married to have sex. So you can certainly have a relationship without sex in the beginning. Um, but maybe you mean a relationship with this person isn't possible. Maybe that's a very important thing to her. And without that, you don't think the relationship will hold together. You know her better than I do. But a lot of partners, most partners, if they care about you, they're in this for something more long term. If they understand, if she understands what you're going through and you explain it well and you recruit her support and she knows it's just a temporary thing, she'll probably be a lot more supportive than you expect, at least generally speaking. So if you haven't talked to her about what's going on, then I would strongly advise that you consider that, because having her knowledgeable support, her knowing what's going on, she's fully on your team, that can be more helpful than Cialis, for sure. Welcome everybody as you come in. Yeah, same there, huh? So hot. Yeah, it's crazy. 115 degrees tomorrow. Yeah, haven't felt that in a long time outside of a sauna. Question: what would be classed as a binge? For example, I relapse and then watch porn for an hour or so, and then get back onto the streak for another week or so. Is that dangerous? If you're recovering from a porn addiction or a porn-induced sexual dysfunction, any level of use is dangerous. Any level of use is going to hold you back. It's going to keep those cravings powerful and alive, and it's going to prevent you from reaching your full potential in this recovery process. Any amount of use. So whether or not I would call an hour-long single relapse a binge, I probably wouldn't. A binge to me is several sessions in a confined period of time within a week, and yet just categorizing them by relapse versus binge might not be as helpful for you. I think the most helpful thing to keep in mind is simply the more that you use, the worse it's going to be. But any use at all is going to be harmful for you if you're on this recovery journey. And it's never too late to stop. You might say to yourself, okay, well, it's been a half an hour. It won't matter if I use for another half an hour because it's still just a single relapse. It's not a binge. No, don't listen to those rationalizations. They come from your addicted brain, the addicted part of yourself. It's never too late to stop, and it's always better to stop sooner than it is to stop 20 minutes later or a day later or a week later. But at the same time, if you're caught in this cycle and you find yourself going back and back again, round and around in that cycle, then perhaps your focus should be elsewhere right now. Perhaps your focus should be more on building the life and the skills and the relationships and the support that you're going to need to actually live porn-free long term, rather than focusing so much on just that negative of removing pornography from your life right now. I talk about that a lot in the My Life Rebooted addiction recovery course that I put out last month. A lot of it is about building that satisfying life and building those skills that you're going to need to live porn-free before you really start focusing 100% on eliminating the porn use. Getting a good flood of questions so far. What's the best way to solve premature ejaculation issues? When I masturbate without porn, it doesn't last long. I can imagine that it would be quick when having sex. A lot of people struggle with premature ejaculation at some point along this journey. For guys who've never experienced it before starting to quit their porn and masturbation habits, it can simply be because your body is so used to having more frequent orgasm that you're very sensitive and maybe on a hair trigger when you start masturbating porn-free or when you start having sex. That usually alleviates on its own as you get more accustomed to having consistent sexual contact and experience. But there are things that you can do in the moment, and there are things that guys can do if they find that just consistent rewiring is not helping them. A few factors to really keep in mind are, number one, anxiety. If you're nervous, if you're anxious, either about your erections or about premature ejaculation or performance, that tends to have a big effect on guys who are susceptible to premature ejaculation. You want to be as relaxed as possible, and you can start in two ways. By, number one, having an open communicative dynamic with your partner, allowing her or him to see exactly what it is you're nervous about. Say, hey, I have a tendency to be on a hair trigger. I can be too sensitive. I'd like to work on that. I'd like your help with that. The more that they know about it, the less pressure is on you, the more you can just relax and enjoy the experience. And if it does happen, you already talked about it. It's not a big deal. And number two, you can start to approach that anxiety instead of from the mental place, from a physical place. By calming your body, you can help to calm your mind, and vice versa. But in that moment, you can focus on your body and specifically on your breath and on your tension levels. If you are anxious, you'll probably notice that your breathing is shallow or quick or uneven. You'll probably notice that you're tense, your muscles are taut. You can focus on these two factors and actually reduce that anxiety and help you relax, have a longer period of sexual contact before climax. So focusing on your breath, number one, those deep belly breaths using the diaphragm, deep and slow and rhythmic, keeping that focus on your breath so you're not holding your breath, you're not breathing shallowly, and then consciously paying attention to your musculature and allowing that tension to dissipate, just going loose and relaxing. That can help to calm the body down. And if you notice that during sexual contact you are getting close or you're getting too close, just take a break. Take a breather, take a minute, take 3 minutes, relax, breathe, and then start again. And you'll probably notice that after a few times of doing this, that you might have been able to reach a plateau wherein you can just have more steady sexual contact without reaching climax. So practice these skills, talk to your partner, and give yourself some time. Another question, been on 3 to 6 month streaks since 2013, always going back to porn, and so I haven't rebooted properly. On a 9-month streak now, and wet dreams are creating huge urges and withdrawal. How do I avoid them, and what do I do? Okay, congratulations on what sounds like your longest streak ever. Of course, it's not just about building longer and longer streaks. It's about building a new lifestyle and a permanent lifestyle that's porn-free. But yeah, congratulations, 9 months. I'm sure a lot has changed for you in this time. And I'm sure you've learned a lot about yourself and your vulnerabilities and what you need to stay clean throughout these years since 2013 when you started. As for wet dreams, yeah, they can, if you're not used to having orgasm or you're going hard mode, they can trigger a chaser effect in which you have a higher libido for a few days or a week. You might have more cravings, you might be more triggered and more vulnerable. There are a couple of things that you can do to help prevent wet dreams, but if you're just the type of person who gets them periodically, you probably cannot avoid them altogether. One thing that you can do is avoid sexual fantasy or any edging as you're going to sleep. That can lead to wet dreams of a higher frequency. So if you're doing that, you can be mindful about it and think about something else, or use a guided meditation while you're going to sleep, anything to avoid that fantasy and that edging. And if you're having a sexual dream, you can develop that skill of being able to recognize that you're dreaming and waking yourself up if you're having a sexual dream, especially if it's about relapse. But ultimately, if it happens, I think the best thing for you to do is to have the tools and the support in place so that even if it does happen and you do get triggered, you have that safety net to fall back on and you're not at the highest risk of relapse. So one thing that you can do, as I talk about all the time, is protect yourself on your devices such that even if you did really decide, okay, I'm using porn right now, that you wouldn't be able to get to porn without consequences, at least, without a significant time investment. And that time that it takes to get to pornography is time that allows you to breathe, to get back to your center, and to make a different choice. So having accountability software like Covenant Eyes installed in your devices with good accountability partners in place, such that even if you know you can get around a filter or a block, that your mother or your sister or your friends or any accountability partners you've chosen, church pastor, is going to see what you are looking at, what you're seeking online. That can be a huge deterrent in that moment of weakness and help keep you on the path that you've chosen for yourself. So that's one thing that you can do. Hi, Noah. I have a question. Is PIED reversible for everyone once they stop doing PMO for a long period of time? As far as I've seen, yes, it is reversible for everybody. And, there are people that I've worked with who have been on very long recovery journeys, maybe long flat lines, a year, even 2 years long. And I've seen those people recover as well. There are people that I'm aware of are currently on those long flat lines or those long recoveries, and they have not recovered yet. And is it possible that they might never recover? It's within the realm of possibility, sure, but I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that PIED is reversible 100% of the time. Now, there might be other things going on with some of these particular cases, other medical issues that maybe have gone undiagnosed, maybe other psychological issues that are getting in the way. So it's not necessarily just sit and wait type of game. There might be other angles that you can approach the problem from. But yeah, pure PIED, I believe, and as far as I have seen, is reversible 100% of the time. I know a bit of a different question, but one that's relevant all the same. Serial killer Ted Bundy said that more extreme pornography was a huge factor in him doing what he did. He says he doesn't blame it all on porn, but it had an effect. Thought? Well, Ted Bundy, psychopath, killer, and a liar, a manipulator. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock in what he says just because he said it. He was probably playing an angle at the time when he said that. That said, we have seen that pornography, especially violent pornography, extreme pornography that shows forced sex or any of these kinds of more extreme or deviant genres, can certainly have an effect. And we've seen that in especially young people who are perhaps at risk because of other factors in their lives. Maybe they have abuse at home or an unstable environment at home or some of these other risk factors. If pornography is introduced, especially this more violent pornography, that there are a much higher likelihood of acting out and sexually abusing or sexually assaulting one of their peers or somebody else. So it's not that that type of pornography can just turn someone who's very well adjusted into a rapist or a killer, but for someone who is already at risk for other reasons, if they're then exposed to pornography, then the likelihood that they're going to act out sexually in a sexually destructive or imposing way does go up. Certainly see. Hey Noah, I'm 16 in flatline on 40 days streak. I don't have PIED, or at least I can get it up 100%. What do you think? How long will it take for me to recover? Okay, so you said don't have PIED, so I'm imagining you're just wondering when you're going to get out of the flatline. That is something that I can only ever hazard a guess on, and usually I like to learn a lot more about someone's personal situation and what they've experienced before I give a guess. And I always preface that it is a guess because, yeah, flatlines, they have a wide variety in how they present and in how long they take to recover from. Normal, standard flatlines generally last between 2 weeks and 2 months, but flatlines, as we talked about earlier today, can last a lot longer than that. And there are some factors that I look at. But if you don't have PIED and you're quitting for another reason and you're in a flatline, yeah, I'm not going to hazard a guess without knowing more about you. But I will say that most do end within 2 weeks to 2 months. Thank you, Noah. So clear. Hope things get back to normal. This was the first guy with the first long question. After age 32 in my case, relationships get crazy. Also, I was on Cialis while I was with her, so handling this quietly sounds easier. It might sound easier, but it won't necessarily be easier. Sure, that conversation might be difficult, and you can search on my website. How do I tell her about my PIED, I think it's called. And I have a guide to how to talk to a partner about this issue. And yeah, the conversation can be difficult and can be scary, but once she is aware and on your side and on your team and supportive of you, it's actually a lot easier to recover with her there rather than trying to hide things, trying to sneakily eat Cialis and plan. You see, I got to time these things. You got to use the Cialis or the Viagra at a certain time, thinking, okay, we might get together, we might have sex at this time, especially if you're hiding this. It can cause a lot of stress. It can be very stressful and just logistically not very pleasant. It can take a lot of the fun out of just dating and having intimate moments together. So I do think that it's actually easier in the long run to talk about it, but up to you, of course. Part of the reason I've kept going back to porn, this is the guy on a 9-month streak now, is because I find the women I date want sex straight away, which would be dangerous for me in reboots. Porn then becomes the only outlet. I don't know, your logic there sounds like a little bit of twisted addict logic. You know, I'm not ready for sex, so I have to use porn. Not sure what's, and perhaps just thinking that I will never find a good relationship, and then you despair, and then you turn to porn for solace. That makes sense, but of course, it's still addict logic. Yeah, as I said, I have a video guide where I talk through exactly how I recommend speaking with partners about this and having that conversation. So search my website for that, or my YouTube channel for that. Forget exactly what it's called, how to tell her about my PIED or PISD. As for supplements, you know, if you're not diagnosed with a specific deficiency or an imbalance, there's no supplements I really recommend. Yeah, focusing too much on aphrodisiac supplements, I think, just adds some more stress factor to this process. If you want to try things like ginseng or horny goat weed or whatever, it's probably not going to hurt you. You consult with your doctor before you do, perhaps. But if you have PIED, you're not going to need a supplement to recover. And once you are fully recovered, you shouldn't have to rely on supplements or on eating certain foods in order to be able to have an erection for sex. Now, you might find that, you know, if you eat a big meal or an oily meal, a fatty meal, that you have reduced libido or reduced erection quality, but you should still be able to get it up and have sex once you're fully recovered. And if you're not able to yet, and you find that you're still very touchy, then you're probably still in the midst of recovery. I'm still paying for my mistakes of the past. Last year I tried NoFap and I relapsed because of being rejected from university. This month I got rejected again and I feel depressed. Yeah, I mean, getting rejected sucks. Whether it's a romantic rejection or a career rejection, it's tempting in those moments to turn to something that's a crutch, that's an emotional outlet you've used many times before in the past. It's very tempting to turn to that. And is my audio okay? I'm getting an alert here. Let me know if my audio is okay. Might have to adjust my settings. But yeah, as for what I was saying, what was I saying? Oh, yes, it's very tempting to go back to an emotional crutch, an addiction in those moments. But that's part of what recovery is about. It's not just about not using pornography, it's about learning how to handle those emotions in healthier ways, learning how to lean on your support system, how to find emotional solace in things like nature or hobbies or exercise or creativity, music, art, rather than in your addiction. So you might have some work to do there, but just remember that these moments of feeling down, these moments of feeling depressed and rejected, everyone goes through them and they're always temporary. You're going to have high points too. Those will be temporary as well. The important thing is to stay consistent with knowing who you are and what your values are and sticking to those no matter how life is feeling right now. Knowing that these situations are temporary, you will get through it, you will survive. Audio okay. Okay, good to hear. What do I think of Viagra while rewiring? Already talked about that today. Go ahead and rewatch the beginning. It's a question. Sometimes I have an erection just thinking about my girlfriend, although we haven't had sex yet. If I'm having an erection by thinking about her, does this mean I don't have PIED? It's a good sign, certainly, that you might be ready for more intimacy and perhaps sex. It's if you're relying on that as a test, though, it's not an accurate test. It's not going to tell you how exactly your body will respond when you're actually with your girlfriend, because thinking about your girlfriend and being in fantasy is much different from actually being together with her and the potential pressure of that moment. You might have anxiety in that moment that holds you back from just relaxing and being aroused. It might not be the same as your fantasy, you know. In your fantasy, maybe you were jumping right to graphic images of you two having sex, whereas in real life, it doesn't work quite that way. You know, there's a process. So it's not necessarily a 100% accurate test that will tell you, okay, yeah, I'm fine now. PIED is gone. But it is a good sign. You know, it's a good sign that perhaps you're ready to take it to that next level and explore intimacy and explore rewiring. And of course, much easier to do that when your partner understands what you're going through and she's on your team. So, just like I was telling the other guys, if you haven't done that yet, I recommend doing so. What are my thoughts on gore fetish? Are the people that watch that completely sick? Or like you said before, have they become desensitized? Thanks. Any sort of fetish or, you know, quote unquote deviant sexual desire, a paraphilia, can be rooted in perhaps childhood experience or even genetics. You know, we don't fully understand where people's fetishes come from. And some of those, especially those that you have and that you've had for a long time, even before starting to use pornography, they can certainly be something that you will be with you for the rest of your life. And that doesn't mean that it has to be something you're always obsessed with. It doesn't mean that you have to always have that as your only sexual interest. Most people like that can still enjoy more vanilla type sex without incorporating that fetish. But for a lot of people, especially the people I work with, these fetishes aren't innate and they're not from some, you know, childhood trauma or childhood experience. They're from escalating in their pornography use, becoming desensitized, becoming bored by what originally turned them on, continuing to seek more novel and more shocking content. And for those people, there's a lot of hope for them to reverse that process as they quit porn, as they quit indulging those fantasies. And they can come to the point where they're disgusted by those things now. And get to that point where, you know, just being naked with someone you're attracted to is more than enough to arouse you and provoke a great sexual experience. So, you know, I'm not one to judge people by their fetishes, by what type of content they've escalated to. I certainly did my fair share when I was younger and caught in that cycle. So don't shame yourself if that's something that you're into, or if you have a fetish that you're disturbed by, and you think it's because you've fallen into this escalation trap. It's a trap that no one warned you about. It's not your fault you fell into that trap, but it is your responsibility now to seek healing. Hey, thanks for the super chat donation, Fudman. Fudman asks, I went for 72 days with little to no transmutation and then relapsed. Today is day 1 again. Laughing my ass off. Love the channel, bro. Keep going. Well, thanks for your support, brother. And welcome back to day 1. You know, you didn't lose everything that you gained in those 72 days. Find some lessons in what you've experienced. Find some nugget of knowledge that will help you moving forward. You said went for 72 days with little to no transmutation. I'm guessing what you mean by that is that you were sort of just white knuckling it, holding on for dear life, and didn't really find out how to transmute that energy you were feeling into other aspects of your life. And that can really be a game changer when you do figure out how to do that. This sexual energy that we have, it's energy. And to a certain extent, we can transmute that energy and focus that energy into other aspects of our lives, into our relationships, into our career, into our physical life, sports, working out. When you're restless and you're fantasizing and you have a lot of that pent up sexual energy, you go for a run, you channel that into pounding the pavement or channel that into writing a song or doing something. It's absolutely possible. And I'm not saying that you should forever suppress your sexuality and only express it in these non-sexual ways. I'm not a proponent for that, but there is a time and a place and the right person to express your sexuality with. And without that, it can come out in inconvenient moments. It can control your life. It can take an inordinate place in your life, crowd out the other things that are important to you. So it is important to have that skill of being able to take that energy, channel it in a direction that's better for you, better for your life. Thanks again for the support. Hey, Noah, I had an erection listening to sexual WhatsApp audios with my girlfriend. Is that a bad or a good thing? Thanks. Yet sexual content, exchanged between you and your partner is a gray area, certainly. And if you are not long distance, I certainly recommend keeping most of that sexual energy for in person, especially during the recovery process if you have a porn-induced sexual dysfunction. But if you're long distance, or if it's just something that you both enjoy and you're finding that it's not pushing you toward relapse or pushing you to seek out more or delaying your recovery, then it doesn't have to be a problem. But if it is a problem, you need to recognize that it's a problem and do something about it. If that really triggers you and you end up relapsing afterwards, or you find that you've stalled in your real life rewiring progress, and maybe you're doing too much of this screen-based or audio-based sexual arousal stuff, then perhaps that's something to pay attention to and to cut out, at least for now, until you are more fully recovered. I can get it up with porn, but not with a real partner. Is that kind of PIED reversible? I was an addict for 6 years. What are your thoughts? That's PIED in a nutshell right there. It's able to get it up for pornography, but not able to get it up for a real person. And there are certainly people who get PIED to an extreme degree where they can no longer maintain an erection for porn either. So that's definitely something to be aware of. So if you're not able to get erect for porn either, or you're struggling to maintain your erections for porn, it doesn't mean that PIED isn't your problem. You might just be at that more extreme level. But for you, yeah, if you can get it up to a computer screen, then there's no physical reason why you shouldn't be able to get it up and maintain an erection and have good sex with a partner you're attracted to. It's most likely neurological and psychological. You've conditioned yourself to respond to a screen rather than to a real person, and perhaps you're not comfortable yet with a real person either. You need to build that comfort. So yes, it sounds to me like what you have is certainly reversible, and there's a lot of hope for you to have great relationships and great sex. Hey, Henry, thanks for the support. Super chat, close to a year now. Thanks to you. Oh, well, it's you, man. You did the work. I'm glad to have provided some information that helped along the way. I just wanted to appreciate the excellent resources and superb motivation you're creating. It's hugely important work. You should be proud. Well, appreciate that, brother. And congratulations, close to a year, closing in on that anniversary. Good job. Don't get complacent. Keep your eyes on the ball and keep moving forward. Keep building yourself. And thanks for being here and for the support. I relapsed today. What can I do about it? I'm feeling uneasy and almost feeling like I have a heart attack at night. I wonder if it's normal and what I can do about it. Well, I'm no medical doctor. I'm no physician. So if you're feeling medically distressed and like you're having a heart attack, certainly get checked out by a physician. A lot of times anxiety can create those feelings. Panic attacks, anxiety can create those feelings of distress, being unable to sleep, being uneasy, sense of impending doom, or like you're having a heart attack. And if this is new to you, and perhaps it's coinciding with your struggle to quit pornography, then it can be related to withdrawal symptoms or perhaps increased distress, mental distress, due to this struggle that you're now in, and maybe the self-loathing that you have possibly developed through being unable to keep these promises to yourself and stay porn free? Throat's getting a little scratchy after 35 minutes continuous talking. Usually I like to let clients do most of the talking. But in these live streams, it's all me. So if you're wondering, you said you wonder if that's normal, feeling like a heart attack every night. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily normal. So definitely get checked out by a physician if you're worried about that. But it could be due to panic attacks and anxiety related to this process, yes. Blue Mosaic. I feel like when I recover from PIED, I want to sleep with a lot of women. Yeah, you're certainly not alone in that desire. You know, you got this pent up desire to connect and to have great sex. Perhaps you've never been able to because of PIED. And when you're finally healed, you want to let loose. You want to enjoy yourself. I think that's natural. And I'm not going to tell you that that's wrong to have casual sex or to be promiscuous. But I will say that that might be still the porn conditioning speaking rather than your true self or your true desires. Because porn certainly does teach us things subconsciously and consciously. It teaches us that more is better, variety is best, novelty is best, being promiscuous, casual sex is best, and we can internalize those lessons even if we're consciously aware that porn is not realistic. And so you might still have those teachings and those agreements within you telling you that, yeah, that's what you want, is to have sex with as many attractive people as possible. And yet, as you go through this recovery process and as you start having sex with people, you might find that that's not actually what you want. And I just want you to be open to discovering for yourself what you really desire and what's really satisfying to you. I can tell you that a lot of people find that true satisfaction, real lasting satisfaction is better found being with one person who you really care about and they really care about you, and you can build a long-term, deep, meaningful relationship out of that rather than more casual, less meaningful sexual experiences. My brain seems not to have brakes. I could literally slap my boss from the first thought. It seems my brain is out of control. Is this hypofrontality? That does sound like hypofrontality, yes, which is common among people who struggle with addiction and with compulsion problems. Hypofrontality meaning that weakened connection between the part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's most in charge of planning and foreseeing consequences, making rational decisions, and that part of your brain, the deeper, older reward circuit that is responsible for that feeling of desire you get when you see a slice of chocolate cake, or you're at the slot machine, or you're looking at pornography. And when you have that weakened connection, you're less able to heed that rational voice within you and apply those brakes. But yes, throughout the process of recovery and practicing discipline, developing mindfulness through mindfulness meditation and developing that discipline, developing those strong habits, and developing your willpower, you can reverse that process and strengthen that part of yourself and strengthen your brakes. Noah, speaking of transmuting that energy, I heard of a sacred spiritual practice, if you like, where if one goes many years of semen retention, they become enlightened, if you like. Thoughts on this? I'm going to make a video on semen retention soon, where I'll go into more detail on semen retention, what we know about it, what my perspective is on it. I do not think that just by holding on to your seed that you will reach enlightenment. It can certainly be part of that process, but it's not just about retaining the physical matter, inside of your body. It's, I think, about developing the mindfulness and the control that it takes to have mastery over your baser instincts and your baser urges. And through that process, you can certainly reach higher levels of thinking and perhaps what some people might call enlightenment. But there's a lot more to it, I believe, than simply retaining your semen. Andy, if you do masturbate, would you be better using a fleshlight than your hand, seeing as a fleshlight is closer to a real vagina than your hand? Yeah, I talk about this in my article and video, Is Masturbation Healthy or Not? And it's using sex toys, male sex toys, is something that I had a bias against for a long time. It's like, it seems kind of weird, investing money in masturbation. But honestly, yes, if you are going to masturbate, it's best for it to feel as much like real penetrative sex as possible. So in that case, yeah, using fleshlight is generally going to be better for you if you're struggling with any sort of porn-induced sexual dysfunction or desensitization. It's going to be better for you than using your hand, because while it's still very different from having sex with a real person physically, yeah, and the force and the pressure and the sensations to your penis is a lot more similar than using your hand. NoFap, 21 days. Can't seem to understand anything. I work in a job that requires learning always, but I can't grasp even the simple stuff. I have poor memory too. Is this one of the withdrawal symptoms? If you're noticing that it coincides with your streak, coincides with this effort to quit porn and masturbation, then yeah, it likely is one of the withdrawal symptoms. And yes, that is fairly common to be scatterbrained, to be unable to focus, to have poor cognition and poor memory during this time. It is temporary as long as you are continuing along this path. If you continue to relapse, then you can keep yourself caught in those withdrawal symptoms, get caught in that relapse and purge cycle. But if it is withdrawal symptoms are temporary as long as you continue along the path. Thanks, Noah. May God bless you. You will be in my prayers. How can I donate to you as a support? Well, I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot to me. Yeah, I do it for you guys and for anyone else out there who is struggling with these issues in darkness. I've got a lot of ideas about how to reach the people who really need this information, and I'm excited to continue to grow, to continue to help people, because I know how bad it is when you're alone in darkness and in ignorance. If you want to support me, I do have a Patreon. I think in the description there's a link to my Patreon. You can also, there's a PayPal donate link on my website, Addicted to Internet Porn. It's on the sidebar. And but if you do go on Patreon, for $10 a month, you can join the Reboot Club, which is our private Discord server. You can chat with other guys there, chat with me there. And that reminds me, at 11:30 Pacific in 50 minutes, I will be in the Reboot Club in Noah's office, just available for anyone who wants to drop in, who's in the Reboot Club, and ask me questions. So if you want more after this, if you want some personal feedback, that is the cheapest way to get personal time with me. Just $10 a month to be in the Reboot Club. If you do $40 a month, you're in the Rebooter Support and Discussion group. So you get access to the Reboot Club and also some private channels in the Reboot Club where 3 times a week we have calls. We meet for an hour. We check in with each other. We ask and answer questions. We have a good time, and it's really helpful for the guys in there. Just had a meeting before this. Had a dozen guys in there. Had a great meeting. So if you're interested in that, check out the Patreon as well. And thank you again for your. Noah, I still can't seem to empathize with women as much as I can with my male friends. There's no problem in dating or anything like that, but I still can't seem to be able to connect with girls. Yeah, I see this a lot, in guys who maybe don't have a lot of female friends, and especially guys who've been using porn for a long time. It does train us subconsciously to see women as sex objects and not as people who are just interesting to talk with and get to know. So one thing I recommend for that is just to focus on trying to make more friends who are women, and not even looking at them as potential dating material, but just focusing on, I want to get to know who this person is. I want to have a good time. I want to have a good conversation, make each other laugh, maybe, perhaps build a friendship. And having a close female friends that you're not, trying to bang, that you're not hoping will turn into a relationship, I think is important for everyone. Too many guys don't put as much effort into that as I think that they should. There's you can being friends with women and just knowing how they think and like being around them, being around their energy, I think is really good for us. And it can definitely help you to develop that empathy and also just help you to be more comfortable around women and be more comfortable just talking with them and getting to know them. So you're not anxious when you do finally get on a date and you're getting to know a woman and a woman and you haven't talked to a woman in weeks or months, with any significance. So that's my advice there. Noah, good to see you. How long can it take to heal from severe PIED? I have 8 months free from porn and masturbation. And congratulations on those 8 months. For me, it took around that long to get to the point where I was fully recovered. And then I relapsed and I sabotaged it all and I had to heal again. So don't do that. But yeah, it's widely varied between individuals. Most people see significant progress within 90 days, as long as they're following the guidelines, and full recovery within a year. Some people, a significant minority of people, take longer than that. So I'd have to know you a lot better and get to know your situation before giving you more detailed advice. There might be something you're doing or something you're not doing that could be holding you back, but it might simply be a matter of more time as well. So yeah, for anyone who wants to get personal time with me, you can find me on addictedtointernetporn.com, get my help tab, and book a personal call with me if you want to, go over your situation with you in detail and lay out exactly what you should be doing in order to heal. And again, if you don't want to pay for that one-on-one time, just join me in the Reboot Club in 43 minutes, and we can speak there. Noah's office. Noah, different question. Question about astral projection. I really don't have anything to say or contribute to a conversation on astral projection. I don't have any supernatural experiences or experiences with astral projection. I'm kind of envious of people in my life, friends who have had encounters with supernatural or ghost-like encounters or alien encounters. I got a friend who swears up and down, to his close friends at least, that he had an encounter with Sasquatch. I think it would be pretty cool to have those kind of encounters. Or it could be terrifying as well, so speaking from a place of ignorance. But no, I've never had any sort of supernatural encounters like that. All right, we've got some good questions today. I'm going to see if there's one or two more that are interesting that we haven't already covered. And then I'm going to read to you from the book Gifts of Recovery, which is one of my favorite books on recovery from a porn addiction. It's a daily reader, just a little bit of reading, a little bit of wisdom every single day of the year. And then I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll be in the Reboot Club at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. Okay, today I'm on day 83 of NoFap. It's still 7 more days to reach 90 days. My brain still sometimes imagines some scenes, and for the third time I had wet dreams. Will this hold me back? Will this influence my recovery process? It's totally normal to have scenes that you used to watch pop into your mind. It's not about being a tyrant with those thoughts or just being completely pure-minded. It's about recognizing when that's happening and choosing not to give that your energy, choosing not to indulge in it, not to fantasize about it, recognizing, oh shit, I'm having a porn thought. All right, I'm going to redirect my energy. I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to play my guitar. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to work on this project. I'm going to call a friend. So if you're able to just recognize and redirect, then it won't be a problem. It won't hold you back from recovery. As for wet dreams, already talked about them today. Not going to hold you back from recovery either. It can feel like that. It can feel like a setback, but just wet dreams is not going to hold you back from recovering. In our digital world, we'll all be provoked by unexpected images. I was just triggered by a woman who posted on a NoFap Instagram account. Does this exposure and edging affect rebooting on a neurological level? Just like with the fantasies, the pure exposure, it's not going to be something that's bad for you or that will reinforce your previous behavior, but it's engaging with that. It's edging to it or masturbating to it or indulging in that fantasy that will reinforce it. Actually, just being exposed to it and then immediately choosing to redirect yourself is actually good for your recovery because you're taking away from that conditioning. You're deconditioning yourself. You are conditioned to, when you see an image like that, to expect sexual arousal, sexual stimulation, and orgasm. But the more times now that you are exposed to something like that and it doesn't lead to sexual stimulation or to orgasm, the more you're breaking down that conditioning and taking away the power of those triggers. So it can actually be positive for your recovery. But if you reinforce it even once in a while, you're not making any progress there. All right, fellas. I think that's it for today. Good to see you guys. Thanks for your great questions. I'll be doing this once a month as usual. And if you want to chat some more, I'll see you in the Reboot Club in 40 minutes. And yeah, for now, have a wonderful porn-free weekend. If you're in a place that's as hot as where I am right now, then stay cool, stay safe. I'm going swimming later today. Looking forward to that. So have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.